Hello, we got an animation here from Alysia. Let's take a look. Awesome. Really cool. I love it a lot. There's some very, very nice stuff in there. Let's take a closer look. So I think I want to start initially with the staging and cameras, just because it's feel like it's a big part of this shot. It's a very kind of anime style to the cameras, and I think they add a lot to it. So let's have a look. So I think this is all working really nicely at the start. I think through here, we'll talk about the mechanics in a second, but staging wise and camera wise, it kind of feels like she's jumping out of the way for no reason. I almost want to see this camera move less than it does so that it's not such a big move when this guy comes in. To do that, I think it would be good when this camera is moving over just to track her into her final place and make her pretty central in the frame, maybe even somewhere like here, maybe here, just to give you a bit more room to jump back. And I think as she jumps out of the way, this guy should slam down as well. Ooh. And then here I'd change the angle a little. I like what you're doing with the Dutch in the camera. I just think she could be a bit more on a third over here. Just she feels a little packed away over in this corner. I think it'd be nicer if she was more on a third composition wise. And I think this is cool. I think what's problematic for me about this camera is that this final staging, it just feels a little boring compared to the rest of it. I think you could get something a lot more dynamic. I kind of think this one works well enough, but if we're going to get it working with the end, I do think that she should essentially kind of readjust the framing herself rather than with the camera when she lands. So we can do this. And then when she lands, I feel like this is the framing that I have issue with. So if we bring the camera lower, translate it lower, and then rotate up, maybe less of a Dutch angle on this as well, just as it's a more calm moment. And I think we can go a little more 3/4 on these characters as well. So say this guy's here, she could be a bit more... I don't know why she's a potato now, but she is. But we could have a hit into this guy over here and then have this big up and then land over here, or maybe even a bit closer to camera, kind of like a Pokemon battle. It's kind of a nice framing and it's a lot more dynamic, and it matches the rest of your shot a bit more than this kind of flat framing, which doesn't have an awful lot of dynamism to it. But yeah, let's have a look at the rest then. So if we just track her knee, there's a little pop here, just kind of sticks in screen space, and then I'm sure it doesn't if you view it side on, but in screen space it stands out. Same thing here with her arm, kind of has a nice spacing to it and then hits and sticks pretty hard through these frames here. Just be careful of that. I think here when she does the wind up, it would be nice to get a little more of a line of action through her whole body here. Reverse C or C shape through the hips and spine, and also making sure we get a nice silhouette on the trailing leg. C shape will also help with the arm silhouettes and making that a bit more interesting. Having a nice flow through those will help. I think here this back arm needs a bit more of a down arc, which will also give you more of a flow through that arm pose there. I also think we could just push that C shape a little more angle in the torso there, just to get a little nicer shape through her body. And then a nice reversal here into this down. Make sure that the arms aren't getting hidden on any frames. You always want to maintain a nice silhouette of that. Always think about your frames as being able to be posters on a wall if someone stopped on them, especially with such a stylized piece like this. And I thought you could have that arm kind of drag behind, still have a flow through the arms, but have them broken up so they're not twinning so much. And then just a bit more lead in this elbow to get a nicer flow through that arm there. And I think you can also maybe go down a little more, though I know maybe not as much as this drawing. This is really cool. That's going in the thumbnail. Now I would just be careful making sure that we get a clear read on this arm here. Probably a bit more like that. Just want to see all the aspects of the arm, forearm, upper arm and hand. On your jump here, the hips hit a wall when they go up in translate Y. So just make sure that that's got a nice arc to it, and we're easing up we have a fast out and then we're easing into the top of the arc in Y. I think this could also be to do with the camera, which is making it feel like a hit, but just make sure in screen space, because our eye is tracking that it works okay. I think here you might actually want a reversal before this down, but I think what I was trying to get here is more of a flow through the arms. So just felt a little angular with these harsh lines. So you could probably use your bendy controls if you've got them, and also just delay that hand. And then I just felt like this screen left arm was going out of the arc a little bit. So we're kind of over here, and then we're going over here for a frame, and then down through here. So just keeping it in a bit, but still having a flow through it, I think might work a little nicer. But then obviously these will need a bend on them as well. Though I quite like the straight aesthetic that you've got. So maybe take these notes with a pinch of salt. I do think it grounds her in reality a little more and is quite nice. But for these fast moments, you might want to consider just really selling those graphic shapes by pushing the bendy shapes in the arm. And then the other note I had for this one was the hands are looking all a bit pan-handed at the moment. So just maybe favor the index finger, have a nice curve through the others just to get a bit of flow through those fingers, through the hand, and then through the arm. I felt like this hand was going a little bit out of arc because this frame is meant to be bridging this and this. Going all the way out here, I feel distracts the eye a little too much. So I'd probably keep it somewhere in here. And I think that's going to help us a little bit more. Very cool though. I think this is working great. Again, if anything, maybe push that a little more. I think the spine is a little straight through here. So maybe just a little more on that mid spine, or just getting this rotation working. But it's really strong posing. I bring these feet in and also have one a little higher just to avoid that twinning. And this is super nice. When she hits here, it does feel like she needs to keep going. She's got a huge amount of momentum there, and it really needs to roll, I think, unless you're going for the my spine is instantly broken look, but I don't think you are in this animation. So I think that momentum of roll just needs to carry forward into an actual roll, and that will lend nicely into this pose that you have, rather than kind of doing this really epic move and then turning into I've fallen and I can't get up. I just think it would be a lot more in the style of your piece to continue that roll into a dynamic movement that gets her up. And then here you just want to get those hips over just to make sure that we've not stacked all the body parts on top of each other. Be a lot more readable. I think here the body is feeling a little like it could do with some more shape. So just the classic note of C shape in the spine. I think the eye line also didn't help with me not really reading that creature just about smashing and hitting into her, because it doesn't look like she's looking at what then happens afterwards. It looks like she's looking at where she's come from, which might be right, but then the creature doesn't feel like he comes from where she just came from. So you need to hook those two up somehow. Either have her look where it feels like the creature is coming from, which I think is more in this realm, like down from this space. So she'd be a little more to camera, I think. I don't know what this drawing is, but maybe it'll make sense if I finish it, and it doesn't. But I think what you've got here with the head turned is maybe a little too much, and she should perhaps be more over here. That makes a little more sense. It would be nice if she had some expression as well, but I'm not sure how limited this rig is. And then I think you could have her go from this reverse C into having the hips go over as she kind of settles, do a bit of a weight shift and have that reversal through there before going down into this antic pose. I think you could push that arms even more. Make sure we get a closed eye through here just to sell that panic and energy. And then make sure these arms are arcing. I like that you lead with this one. It's kind of interesting. And I think it works quite nicely because you've got the lead through here, the reversal, which is cool. Everything moves on the same frame through here. I think you could just start to ease that on this frame a little. So maybe our hips have started just easing into that jump. Maybe not as much as I drew, but for everything to suddenly be gone and then fairly stuck in screen space there feels a little bit harsh. And again, I think you can break these legs up a bit. Could even have one a little more down, and then you could have one overtake the other. I don't know what that is. Maybe a knee? It would be cool if this back leg was this one. So it kind of overtakes it. And again, I think this is another place you got to carry that energy that you're using. You got to carry that energy that you're using in this jump through the landing. Maybe a roll. I see that there's a side roll, but she lands like this with all of her momentum going this way. So she would continue that into something more like that and roll over into this kind of settle. And I think with this guy, probably have something more like this. Just getting those elbows leading. I really think the body needs to, well, when I say elbows leading, I mean elbows leading the fist, but the body would be leading. So here I definitely still have these fists coming down. Maybe that one's a bit more down. And then I think how far out you're going is making this monster feel kind of weak. So maybe get that in, get it tighter. He doesn't feel like he's slamming down. He feels like he's face planting, but he's just caught himself because he's put his arms out. So if you want to make that feel more like he's in control, I'd probably get the arms back. I think you want to have her looking at him as well. Feels like all of this motion, she feels very out of control because she's not looking and she has no idea what's happening. I won't comment too much on this movement. I think it's interesting, and if that's what you're going for, then that's cool. And I do think we could push this final pose a bit more, get a bit more flow through this leg, some kind of interesting angle through that. I think the splits is not the right thing to go for. It doesn't feel very feline or cat-like. That is the same thing, feline and cat-like. But yeah, probably go for something more like this. Again, carry that feline-like trait through the arm, little paw going, do the old cat licking his paw. Yeah, this guy is feeling a little T-pose right now. I think you could get a little more difference in his pose. Get this leg forward, that one back. Give you a nice flow through the back there and just tie everything in a bit nicer. And having this kind of awkward squat that he has right now. I think if you're going for this kind of prowl antic that you might be because she's got cat features, then I think you could maybe go for that long arm out and then this one kind of cocked back. Gives you a sneaking, prowling pose. And then I've written come get me because it feels a bit like he is in a pose just waiting to be hit here, and he should really be, you know, firing up for an attack or just be doing something rather than waiting. You know, it's that famous thing in acting where always give a character something to be doing, don't just have them waiting for the next line. Just wanted to appreciate this frame as well. Big fan of this. It's very cool. Gonna try that in the next shot I do. I'd like to see a little resistance there against his jaw, a bit more boom. So if you just hold it for a little more between these two frames, maybe like 8 frames or so, just to really get that big snap. Like as soon as she pushes through that jaw and finally breaks it, then she just launches off and she's out of there. I think you bridge that a little more, maybe squash the head. I think when she does come back in, just try and get that as much of just a straight line through just think of it as a shape. Go for full clarity and really try and make that just as much of a straight line while maintaining your anatomy and everything as much as possible. But further on that landing, I think you should delay it. I think if we look at the timing now, it feels a little fast. It feels like she's really flying out of there. And she's probably still. She's probably just hitting her arc now from this jump. So then I wouldn't have her come in till maybe, boom, his jaw can open, give it 8 frames, maybe 2:30. I feel like that would be nicer. She came in then, just break it up a little bit more. I'm not sure exactly what you're going for with this piece. I do feel like it's a little confused. Is she fully capable and elegant? Because her first spin where she jumps off of the cliff is really elegant and really in control. And then towards the end here, she feels, you know, this pose feels like she's very clumsy and kind of doesn't really know about her powers, you know. Kind of reminds me of like Miles Morales when he's kind of just discovering his powers and he's a little clumsy, but it's kind of intentional. And then when he's more in control, obviously he's very elegant and things flow a lot more, and it feels like you start her elegant and then we become more and more clumsy. And if anything, I feel like that should be the opposite. So yeah, if you want to go for elegance, maybe consider something just with a bit more flow to it, a little more control. And also get her head up a lot more. I mean, it feels like she's always head down, always out of control, especially here at the end. Get her head up, get her in control of the situation, I think. I think here when she does a little balance thing, again, this is another thing where I think maybe you are going for this kind of clumsy look, But I do think it would be a nice moment to get her foot off the ground there, get her off balance, get a nice flow through the body and through the arms into reversal, and then settle into this nice final pose that you have. And when you do settle, I do that big facial change so that it's in the settle and not after the settle, so that it doesn't stand out as an isolated movement like it does now. But yeah, really nice work, and thank you very much for letting me review it. Bye.